Well, if Peter Dutton wanted a fight over nuclear energy, it looks like he's going to get it. And that's no bad thing for an opposition. You certainly can't beat an incumbent by just agreeing with them, as the Victorian Liberal Party needs to learn and fast. Yesterday, the Prime Minister said that nuclear energy was fine for others, but not for Australia. And today, the Treasurer, Jim Chalmers, really unleashed on the coalition.
Peter Dutton is more interested in cheap and divisive politics than he is interested in cheap and reliable electricity. And we see that in this nuclear fantasy that he is engaged in. You know, his proposal will cost hundreds of billions of dollars, take decades to build. I think most Australians recognise that our future is renewable, and that's where our efforts and our attention must lie.
Look, I can't speak for the opposition leader, but I reckon you can drive a truck through the government's position. First, there's the lack of logic in saying that nuclear power tied up at a dock in a nuclear-powered submarine is okay, but it's almost evil if it ever comes on land. Second, if renewables are so cheap, how come the more renewables we get into our system, the more expensive our power has become? Now, the obvious answer is that renewables are only cheap when the wind blows and the sun shines, yet we need power 24/7 if we're to remain a first world economy. And batteries and pumped hydro and gas, well, they all cost a bomb. And that's if they work as promised. And on batteries and pumped hydro, well, the jury is still out. Third, as the world's third largest uranium exporter, how could we be squandering our natural advantage, as Chalmers wants to claim, if we also use our own uranium here in Australia? Fourth, if nuclear really is a fantasy, how come nuclear provides 70% of the power in France, 20% of the power in Britain and America, and is already in use in 33 other countries? A further 15 too are also looking at nuclear as the only proven way of delivering 24/7 power that's almost 100% emissions free. Now, the hysteria coming from Labor suggests that they know Dutton's onto something and they're trying to bluff him out of prosecuting the case. Just like they knew he was onto something when he took the position he did on The Voice, and Labor then mounted hysterical attacks, calling him a wrecker and worse, until the votes came in. And he was right, on the side of the majority of Australians, and the Prime Minister was not. Now, on nuclear, if there's no commercial case for it, then why have a ban? There's no need for any prohibition. And if there is a commercial case for nuclear, well, let's get the bans removed ASAP and then see what market options might emerge. Now, certainly across the board, the public now think nuclear power should be on the table. Back in 2015, the public were evenly split on nuclear power. 40 for it, 40 against it, the rest undecided. By 2022, an IPA poll found that 53% of us supported the proposition that Australia should build nuclear power plants to supply electricity and reduce carbon emissions. Back then, just 23% of us were against it. And in the latest news poll out last month, we had 55% of Australians supporting the building of small modular reactors and just 31% against. As Peter Dutton pointed out today, it was the late Bob Hawke who first championed nuclear power in this country, saying in 2016 that nuclear power, he said, would be a win for the environment and an essential part of attacking global warming. Now, he's not alone. There are plenty of other union leaders, especially those unions that depend on heavy industry. Well, they're supporting nuclear power as well.
If you look at it right now, I've been pragmatic about talking about nuclear energy before. I remain open and pragmatic to it, and hopefully it can create some good A2B jobs as well.
When we're looking for a long-term energy fix in this country, all options should be on the table.
And Australian living legend, the electronics guru Dick Smith, well, he chimed in today saying that we could get nuclear power within 6 years, and that Labor's opposition to it was, and I quote, emotional and irrational. Said Dick Smith, there was simply no way you could run a country 100% on renewables. Now, support for at least having the option of nuclear power on the table is not going to be enough on its own to win the election for the coalition, but it would be a strong start to the coalition's positive policy agenda, and as a demonstration that it knows being a small target won't win against a first-term government. Also today, there was a minor reshuffle of the opposition frontbench, and here's a move I want you to note tonight. The replacement of the now retired Senator Maurice Payne as Shadow Cabinet Secretary with the super smart and driven James Patterson. Now, as you know, I reckon he's one to watch. Now, I was previously the former Shadow Cabinet Secretary under 3 opposition leaders. So I know how much the role is, in critical terms, important for the opposition. It's about creating policy, holding ministers and the staffing machine to account to get the work done and costed and out to a deadline. So I see this move from Dutton as demonstration that the coalition are well and truly up for the policy fight, that there will be, at the next election, a real difference, I think, between Labor and the Liberals. No longer Labor light under Dutton, finally something we hope that Conservatives will have to vote for. And perhaps too a new home for traditional working class Labor types, the ones that modern Labor has abandoned as they've moved further to the left and more woke.